Hello, everybody. Welcome to Celebrate Southern Africa. My name is Dawn Denton, and I have such an interesting guest for you today. Today, we are chatting to a lovely, lovely lady with a beautiful name. Her name is Flower, and she is based in South Korea. So, Flower, thank you for joining me on Celebrate, and please share about your name, because I think that is the most beautiful name.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. Yeah, it's been a bit of a last minute day for me, but thank you so much. And yeah, my name, so it's actually not my birth name. I've been in Korea now for 9 years, and the reason behind my name is totally ridiculous, and I'm sure lots of people are going to laugh about it. But if there are any Korea K-drama fans or K-pop fans that are watching our interview, they might be able to relate. So there was this K-drama that I started watching 9 years ago when I first came to Korea, and it had this gorgeous Korean actor in it. And I kind of fell in love with him, my little Korea boo moment. And the drama was called Boys Over Flowers. And so as a joke on social media, I was like, just for a joke, I decided to change my name to Flower. And then people started being like, oh, you're a Flower. And so it kind of stuck on my social media. So now I just go by Flower because I actually
Oh, I
don't
love
have
it.
my real name, which is Lauren. I think it's a very serious kind of name for my personality. So now I just go by Flower. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, does your family still call you Lauren?
Yes, they still call me Laurie, but my husband sometimes calls me Flower or La as well. So I usually go by La, if people aren't going to call me Flower, then I usually just go by La.
Oh, I
And
love it.
as an educator in Korea, I go by Miss La. I drop the flower part just to separate the the personal side and the education side. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So tell me how you ended up in South Korea.
So I actually knew nothing about Korea. A lot of people these days come to Korea because of BTS and K-pop. So I actually knew nothing. I knew Psy. I don't know if anybody knows Gangnam Style. That was like a global hit. So that's all I knew about South Korea, to be honest. And I was kind of just feeling very frustrated in South Africa, born and bred in Cape Town, very normal kind of upbringing, which I'm grateful for. But I kind of just wanted like a challenge and like a real adventure. So I kind of, thought about which country I knew the least amount about, and that turned out to be South Korea. I had one friend on Facebook who was in South Korea, and I was like, oh, her pictures look cool. So, let's try. So it was meant to be a 1 year gap year. It's turned into like a 9 year gap life. So here we are. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And so now you have fully established yourself in Korean lifestyle. So you're teaching English. So that was originally what you went to Korea to do, was to teach English.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, which is what a lot of South Africans come over to do, because it's the easiest way to come here. It's not really easy to do anything else here, to be honest. So yeah.
And language wise, how is your Korean after 9 years?
한국말 못해요. My Korean is disgusting and terrible, and it's very embarrassing. When I tell people I've been here almost a decade and I'm still not fluent in Korean, I call it baby Korean. I can speak like very baby kindergarten Korean, survival Korean. And that's the other thing, actually, the longer you stay here, the more difficult it is to learn the language, because you learn to survive. So advice for anybody that would like to come to Korea: learn Korean day one. Don't be like me. Don't be that embarrassing foreigner that still has not mastered the language. Also, I'm terrible at language. Like, Afrikaans for 12 years. Ik kan niet praat Afrikaans nie. I got a D in matric. So I think just language isn't my thing either, to be perfectly honest. But yeah.
Do you find that you can get by with English in Korea?
Yes. I mean, it's become very global. There's so many foreigners coming over. There's a lot of broken English still on board signs, and so all of us foreigners have a good laugh. But no, it is, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to survive. I mean, if I can survive, I feel like anybody can.
So tell me now about all those beautiful South African products you have behind you. I mean, you've got some children's books, and so do you have a South African network of people that come and shop with you? Or is your kind of aim to introduce our culture to the Koreans?
So it actually started off with, just being the South African shop, to supply South Africans here. And then I had a few customers that started ordering gift hampers from me for K-pop stars and celebrities, which is something I never thought of in the beginning. But it's a big trend in Korea to give gifts to K-pop stars and celebrities. So the trend in South Africa is getting very big. So I now have like a customer base that are these huge Korea K-pop fans, and they asked me to put together hampers. So that started happening, and then I realized, like, wow, this is actually an amazing opportunity for me to tap into, more into the Korean community and to kind of educate them more about South Africa. So that's actually kind of my focus now, is to actually just do mainly gift hampers and gifts for Koreans, not actually focusing solely on providing, products to South Africans. Yeah.
Wow. So do you think that there's a real do the Koreans understand about South Africa, or do you think there's a real educational gap?
It's huge. I mean, when I tell people I'm from South Africa, they're like, but you're white. Most Koreans here say Russia, Saddam. They think I'm from Russia. They think I'm from America. And I get so irritated, but it's just ignorance. They literally don't know any better. Slowly, but there are a few organizations here that actually try very hard to partner with Africa in general. That's the problem. In Korea, it's Africa, and I'm like, well, Africa is a massive continent. So there really is so much to educate about for Koreans, in my opinion, and that is one of the things that that's one of my missions now through the shop, is to really try and educate Korean students, especially because I think there is such a great opportunity for both our countries to work together. As K-pop becomes global, I honestly think South Africa as a shooting location for K-dramas and all that kind of thing would be amazing. So I really am trying to push, like, I come from South Africa, it's this beautiful country. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that is one of the things that I'm trying to kind of focus on now, is trying to educate the Koreans about South Africa. Yeah.
Do they know who Nelson Mandela is?
They do. So that's usually my opening thing. I'm like, Afrika Sara, I'm Namagong Sara. Namagong Sara means like I'm South African person. And then I'll be like, Mandela Arayo, do you know Mandela? And they're like, oh, nee, Mandela Arayo. Most of them know Mandela or the World Cup or Waka Waka, which is terrible. Like, that's as far as it goes for most of them, So yeah, like I said, there's so much potential to educate Koreans here. And I get so excited when I meet the few South Koreans that have been to South Africa, because there are a few, and it's so fascinating to hear their perspective on South Africa, because South Korea is so vastly different. It really, really is, Never mind the 5G. We've got 5G here. I think we're still sitting with, I don't know what Wi-Fi connection in South Africa, and everything's so fast paced here. It's ridiculous. You become so used to efficiency. It's so pali, as we call it here, which means like fast paced life. Yeah.
That's very different from laid back Cape Town.
So different. And that's why so many South Africans actually struggle here. Like, they come here thinking we're here to teach and have fun and a jol, and so many struggle to adapt. I did in the beginning, and now I'm equally as pali as them. Ironically, my Korean husband is like so South African, more South African than me these days, I think. And I'm the one who's like, Pali, hurry up, like, let's go.
So tell me about the food. Was that difficult to adapt to, or is there still a lot of Western food that you can eat and that you enjoy, or do you now eat Korean food?
Yeah, so again, embarrassing. I still hate kimchi. Kimchi's like, the traditional Korean food. Very good for your body. I really should eat it. It would clear out my system. But I actually love Korean food. I'm a very picky eater. So, and ironically, Korean food is something I love. So I eat most Korean food, just not the unusual things. Korea's got a few very unique kind of dishes. So I stay away from that. But they're big on pork and meat. We have braais in South Africa. Korea's got braais, except they're indoor. We call it barbecue. You go to a barbecue restaurant and you grill your meat. So that's like a very famous thing and very popular thing to do here. So I love that, obviously, reminds us a little bit of home.
And do they then eat biltong and boerewors?
Yeah, through our shop we supply biltong, and there's some, like I said, there's some Koreans that have been to South Africa and they've started their own biltong companies. So that's slowly, also going into the population. So yeah, and they're a very big meat eating society. So yeah.
Fantastic. So educating about South Africa, you've also appeared on Korean TV, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So, so the first like main show I did was with my Korean mom-in-law, actually. So it was all about our relationship, looking at the multicultural relationship between a Korean mom and a foreign daughter-in-law. So that was a really wonderful opportunity, and I told the producers I was very like thinking about what I want to, portray. And I said, I really want to, try use this opportunity to educate Koreans a little bit about South Africa. So I told my mom the Jerusalem dance, and she's such a vibe though. Like, she's not your typical Korean mom. I like put her in our Ubuntu hat and like my hoodies, and she was doing Jerusalem with me, and yeah, it was a cool vibe. So yeah.
So what are your plans now to do more TV? Is there opportunity for that?
Yeah, I actually did just do another TV show like last week. I've been in a few other small things. Last week I had to play Brittany Murphy's psychotic mother. It's a TV show. It's kind of a cringy TV show, but they basically put all the foreigners in the TV show and they ask the foreigners to play these roles relating to, like kind of murder mysteries or unusual things that have happened in history. So I got to play Brittany Murphy's psycho mom. So
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's funny, going into the entertainment industry was obviously never ever part of my plan. And now it is kind of something I really do want to pursue. I do radio now and then as well. Again, I try, any kind of entertainment opportunity I have, I really do try use it as an opportunity to talk a bit about South Africa or, my culture. I really want to, use those opportunities and platforms just to educate Koreans where I can, if possible.
Absolutely. So they obviously do subtitles on your acting.
Yes, I mean the latest one with Brittany Murphy was very much Korean based, so there's no subtitles, but the TV show I did with my mom was all subtitled.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
So we've got a Korean celebrity. That's exciting.
Hardly. I mean, we're not at Squid Game level. That's the next goal. The next goal is to be in Squid Game season 2, and they can kill, I can be the token South African foreigner that they kill off in, the first game. It's fine.
That's amazing. So do you find that there's cultural differences that sometimes pop up between you and your husband that you didn't expect?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. It's yeah, it's a big strain on the relationship. And he's actually very open-minded. For a Korean, he's actually very progressive and open-minded. But the longer I live with him and stuff, the more I'm realizing there's a lot of deeply ingrained things in Korea. Even the most open-minded Korean, they just can't get rid of because it is such a part of their culture. Us South Africans, apart from being South African, my personality is very like out there and big, and that's not the Korean way. Koreans are mostly like reserved and, very facade, very good at putting on a facade. Us South Africans, it's like what you see is what you get,
Yeah.
You're having a bad day, everybody will know you're having a bad day. In Korea, you're having a bad day, you could be falling apart, but yeah, I'm okay, which has been one of the hardest things for me to accept.
Yeah.
With my personality and all this, like I can't be fake. I don't know how to do the whole pretending you're okay when you're not. So that's very ingrained in him, so I've had to teach him, we have to be open about certain situations and that kind of thing. And then also the level of hierarchy. It's such an ingrained thing here. For us South Africans, we don't care if the person's 50 or 20, whatever, but yeah, you're the 20-year-old and you're trying to give advice to your 50-year-old CEO, that's a no-no. You just don't do it. So really, I feel like the young generation really struggle here so much because they are told, like, you just be quiet. You don't share your opinion. You're going to get into trouble. You're going to be frowned upon. And, so for me, that's been the most frustrating thing. And also I'm an HR major. So, employee rights and, human rights are a big thing for me. So, if my husband's being treated badly at work or something, I'm like, how can? I'm like, just shout at your CEO. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, don't care about the age. Stand up for yourself. You have rights. So it's a very hard thing, and some people can just ignore it, but for my personality type, like it's something I really just can't accept. So
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a real challenge for you. So are you doing full-time the South African shop, or do you have another job?
right, yeah. So I'm teaching. So the new job I've just started now is part-time. I have been doing full-time mostly in Korea, but I need a mental break, to be honest. So we're just doing part-time now in the hope that I can focus more on the shop, because it's been a juggle for the last like 2 years, full-time teaching, studying, and trying to do the shop. It's really hard.
What are you
Even though we push,
studying?
yeah, I'm doing my master's in education. It's a struggle.
Wow, you are juggling 1,000 balls. That's
So,
amazing.
so yeah, that's why I'm doing part-time teaching now, just so I have the morning. It's been really nice this week, waking up leisurely with my coffee. Um, yeah, being a bit more relaxed for change. Yeah.
So you aren't in Seoul. Where are you based?
Yeah, so we literally just moved from Seoul this week. So we're now in Incheon. So Incheon is the port city, very similar to Cape Town, actually. And I've been wanting to move back to Incheon. I lived here before, actually. I've lived in the city twice before, actually. And now I'm hoping this is where we will stay. I need to be at the ocean. I really struggled in Seoul, as a lot of South Africans do. If you're a South African from the coastal areas in South Africa, you really do struggle in the city, and so, yeah, we've worked very hard to come back now to the ocean. So I'm very happy. And this is also where the airport is. So if anybody's coming to South Korea, Incheon is known as the airport city. And there are actually tons of islands in Korea. I don't think people know this either, but Korea has over 3,000 islands. And many,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And so when I lived in Incheon like 4 years ago, I started island hopping by myself on the weekends and discovered like all these amazing islands. So I'm really excited to get back into that again as well. Yeah, what I want to say is Korea, Seoul is not the only place in Korea. I think there's such a perception as well, on the global scale, like, oh, Korea, Seoul. And I'm like, no, Seoul's terrible. There's so many other beautiful cities and places in Korea, So if
Yeah, it's the
anybody
same.
comes to Korea, hit me up. I'll be your personal tour guide and show you all the hidden gems. Yeah.
Take that up. Take up that option, everybody. That's the same
Yeah.
with the UK. People think that London is the UK, and it's not.
Right. Right.
It's a portion of the UK, but it isn't the UK. And it's also so
Right.
multicultural there that if you want really the British culture, you have to really go out of London to get an experience of what that's all about. And I'm sure it's the same in South Korea.
Exactly. I mean, Seoul is so developed and so modern. The city I'm in now, Incheon, actually has two very famous international cities. I've lived in both of them as well. So I'm in Incheon city, and then you've got like these satellite cities. So they're two very modern cities in Incheon, which I've lived in, and they're fantastic. You don't feel like you're in South Korea at all. And actually, I started my time in Korea in a like one of the oldest cities in Korea, actually, called Gyeongju. I was started in like a little village town, and it used to be the capital of Korea, the Shilla dynasty. It used to be the main hub of South Korea during the Shilla dynasty, like thousands of years ago. So I was really happy actually that I started my time there, because my view of Korea is so different. You start your time in Seoul, I know people that have been in Seoul 9 years, they've never left Seoul. And I'm just like, how do you survive, man? Like,
So
so I'm really happy that I started, somewhere else.
so if someone wants to do some teaching in South Korea, what is the first step that you suggest they take?
So you have to obviously be from a native English speaking country. I mean, that's a whole different argument. We'll need 5 hours to discuss that, because I think it's ridiculous, that they only say 7 countries actually qualify for the E2 visa, for the teaching visa, which is what you need here, which is ridiculous, because I know plenty of native English speakers that are the most atrocious teachers, and they truly should not be teaching. Then I've got friends from the Philippines, Uganda, Kenya, or English is not their native language, and they can't teach us. So I think it's ridiculous. But basically, you have to have a degree. Minimum requirement is a degree plus TEFL, and Korea is getting more and more competitive to get into. It's a very saturated market now, to be honest. To be dead honest, I don't recommend people come to Korea to teach anymore. It's very saturated, and the pay, 9 years here, the pay is not increased at all. So great for holiday, but I think, people that are really looking to, move abroad and make decent money, I don't actually recommend Korea anymore. That's my honest opinion. But yeah, if you want to come, you need to have your degree, you need to have TOEFL, and then your police clearance, which takes ages in Korea. I think it's a lot more difficult for us in South Africa as well, getting the documents together. I think it took me about 9 months in total originally when I first came over, to get everything together, just because everything's a bit more slow paced.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're quite involved with Justice Desk. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing human rights organization in South Africa. It's based in South Africa, and it was started by a girl called Jess. She is the most phenomenal woman ever. She's literally like my goals as a human being. And yeah, I came across them on social media a few years ago, and it was funny. I was like, oh, I would love to somehow get involved with them, but I was in Korea, so like I wasn't sure how to get involved. And then they put out an advertisement saying that they are looking for global ambassadors, South Africans that are, based in other countries. So I was like, pick me. I'd love to be part of it. So yeah, that's how I joined. So I'm like the official ambassador here in South Korea. And then when I started the shop, I thought I'd really like to incorporate somehow, them as well into the shop. So they sell, I'm not wearing it now. Hold on, let me find it quickly. Oh, here we go. I can show everybody. So they were making these in South Africa. They have a lovely lady making these Justice Desk bracelets in South Africa. So I asked them if they would be willing to make me Ubuntu bracelets and to ship them over to Korea. And I would be willing to sell them through the shop and then, kind of supporting them by buying the bracelets. So they made these specifically for me here in Korea. And yeah, it's like one of my favorite things to sell through the shop now. I put them into all the celebrity hampers that we do for free, just to again try and educate, the Korean celebrities about, human rights in South Africa and that kind of thing. So yeah, I have a mission of getting these onto BTS. Don't know if it's ever going to happen, but yeah.
So have you had some feedback from any of the celebrities that have received the hampers? Do you ever hear back from them?
So the one that we did recently, they're not super famous. They're an upcoming girl rock band, which makes me so happy, like very like girl power. And the one, like, obviously just really, I think she's a very open-minded Korean girl. And we put so this was from one of our South African customers in South Africa, a South African customer. He really liked them and he contacted me saying, please, can we put a hamper together for them? So we put together, like, we gave them some mugs and a flag and these bracelets, and she's not taken the bracelet off. In all the photos she's sharing on SNS, her bracelet is on. The South African flag is in like a few of her Instagram posts where she's playing her guitar. And yeah, it really did make me very happy. Like I said, this was never part of my plan, but it really kind of motivates me to keep going, because I think it's really special. Yeah.
That's fantastic. You are doing an amazing job. Now, you sat for a while. Did you sit on the Chamber of Commerce, or you were involved with other South African businesses or something?
Yeah, so I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce still. I'm the only female that's part of it. I'm kind of the student liaison, so I just, basically any South African that comes to Korea, I just, this is my personal mission beyond the Chamber of Commerce. So I kind of just said to them, look, I already have to help South Africans on a daily basis, so I'm happy to take on the role. So yeah, a lot of South Africans will just contact me about everyday life questions in Korea and that kind of thing. So I just basically check up on the South Africans when I can, and if they need any help with anything. And then I'm part of SACONET, which is basically the teacher student community, not like, an official. They are affiliated with the embassy. We are affiliated with the embassy. So SACONET and Chamber of Commerce, are kind of working together. And yeah, that's what I'm involved in. And SACONET, we used to throw these amazing events. We had bride days with like 300 South Africans in Seoul. And then Corona ruined everything. But yeah, we're hoping to do that again, because it's such a phenomenal, event that brings us all together. So yeah.
And I think when you're in a place where the culture is so different, the language is so different, for us that are in the UK, some of us had, British parents, our parents immigrated to South Africa in the 70s, or the culture seems to be similar, in so many ways because of the language and our education. We read Shakespeare and all that stuff, so I think to go somewhere where it's that different, to come together must feel even more magical.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many South Africans that definitely feel homesick. There are a lot of South Africans that struggle here. Korea is not for everybody. That's something I want to point out. It's really not for everybody, and if you are planning on coming to Korea, you need to be prepared that, it's you're either going to hate it or love it. I've told so many South Africans, that message me, they want to come over. I say to them, I'm like, have you been to an Asian country before? Are you aware of the culture? It's really not for everybody. And I think the first year is so important. And I was so blessed and I was so lucky because my first year was so amazing here. So it kind of put me in a good mood. Ironically, the longer I stay here, I've become that grumpy old foreigner now, like complaining about everything, protesting about like everything. I can't stand with the human rights issues here and gender inequality. I'm not in the honeymoon phase of Korea anymore. But yeah, it really is what you make of it. And I've had an incredibly hard time here. It really hasn't been easy for me. I think that's really important to tell as well. I've managed to survive, but I've had a very few challenging years as well. Should have left. I tried to leave. I tried to go home to South Africa. I lasted 6 weeks. Wi-Fi being the one thing, I was like, okay, I can't do this.
Well, the thing is, I think for many of us who no longer live in South Africa, it's more difficult the longer we're away, the more difficult it is to go back to South Africa. And like you say, things work outside of South Africa. They don't necessarily work, and it becomes a frustration, and then that puts stress on you, and then it just becomes even more difficult. So if it's probably the best time to go back if you're new out of the country in a way, because the longer you wait, like I'm 27 years now in the UK. For me,
wow.
I don't think I would be able to settle in South Africa. I love holiday there, love it, but I really don't know if I could accept everything the way it is there. And I'm sure it's the same for you.
Yes, that's the thing, like actually, ironically, like I think my husband would be much happier in South Africa. He loves
a lot of people
going on
say
holiday.
that when they marry somebody of another culture, for some of the reason their spouse wants to go back to their country. I mean, I've got a friend here in the UK who's married an American. The American woman wants to live here and he wants to live in America.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, because it's so slow paced, especially because, like I said, South Africa's so vastly different. It's so much more slow paced, and that really suits my husband's style. Korean culture is so pressurizing, especially for the young generation. I mean, the expectations that are placed on people here are just ridiculous. Like if you're 28 and you don't have a car and you don't have a house and, like you're seen as a complete failure. Us South Africans are like, oh, take your time, chill, you got your whole life to get your degree and, work it up. That's not like that here in Korea. So if you're a Korean, it really is, so pressurizing. It really, really is. So,
but you're having an
there are
impact.
a lot of Koreans that want to get out. There's so many young Koreans that are like, stuff this, like, I want to YOLO it up.
But I think
it definitely takes a certain type of personality to stay here.
Yeah, but I think you're having an impact in the schools, even teaching the children English. I'm sure that your personality is something that's different for them, and maybe an inspiration for them to maybe feel a bit more comfortable about being themselves and not behind the facade.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've worked in schools, and like some of the 50-year-old Korean female teachers I've worked with, they're like, who let this crazy foreigner in our school? Like, that really, like, because my personality is very big for most Koreans. But then I have, I had the opportunity to work in some schools where they get it. Actually, my new school now, there are 3 of us South Africans there now. So I was so happy. I was like, yay, friends. So yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, I am so thrilled that we got to chat with you, and I think you are doing amazing things. Now, if somebody has any questions, either they're in Korea or they're struggling to find out more information about going there, or they want to teach, or they don't want to teach, or they just want to know more about you, how can people find out about you?
Sure, you can contact me just on my Facebook, Flower La Warner. You can contact me on Lekker Saffa Spaza on Facebook. You can contact me on Instagram, Flower Takes on the World, or Lekker Saffa Spaza. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share the details below, or so
Fantastic.
any platform. I don't do TikTok.
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram is my limit. But yeah.
And what is the thing that you miss the most about South Africa?
The laid back lifestyle, I think, and ocean. But now I'm back at the ocean. So, I think honestly being back where I am now in this new city, I think it's also really going to help me mentally, because that's the one thing I really have missed. It's just, being a stone throw away from the ocean, going to the beach. And yeah, my family, obviously, I've been away 9 years, I've missed a lot in that time. And Corona certainly didn't help, actually. So we went back now in December, and that was such a rushed trip. But I was like, if I don't go home now, I'm going to probably lose my mind. So we tried to make it happen. Still paying off the flight tickets. Oops. But I'm really glad. I did get to go home.
Yeah. No,
So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge of living abroad for so long, is it's the family. The events that you miss, and especially, worrying with Corona and all that kind of thing.
yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
otherwise I've tried to make a little mini South Africa here in Korea where I can.
Oh, Flower, it is so lovely to speak to you, and I love your name, and don't you ever get rid of it. Make your family start calling you Flower as well.
My mom hates it. She's like, "What is wrong with you?" And then, I go home and I say like things in Korean and I bow, because it's like, she's like, "What are you doing?" I mean, yeah, I think she struggles to accept that I've, been here so long.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the same with our families across the world. Our families would rather have they'd rather be with us and have
Right.
us with them. And I understand that totally, especially as our parents
Yeah.
get older. It's really more
Right.
difficult. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But look after yourself and carry on flying that
you.
flag. And I
Thank
am so
you.
thrilled I got to chat with you. So yeah, well, let's chat again soon.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye.